Have you ever walked into a place expecting just a meal, and walked out with a story that would change the way you see people forever? That's what happened to Daniel, the CEO of one of the largest restaurant chains in the country, on a cold Tuesday night when he decided to do something he hadn't done in years: visit one of his own diners in disguise. He didn't arrive in a sleek black car with tinted windows. He didn't wear his usual tailored suit and polished shoes. Instead, he wore a worn-out hoodie, faded jeans, and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. Tonight he wasn't Daniel the CEO. He was just a man, walking into a diner for dinner. Daniel had been running Harvest Table for 15 years, ever since his father passed the business to him. What started as a small family diner in a quiet neighborhood had grown into hundreds of locations across the country, known for their home-style meals and warm, welcoming atmosphere. At least, that's what Daniel hoped was still true. Lately, he'd been buried in meetings, spreadsheets, profit margins, and expansion plans. His time was consumed by boardroom discussions about quarterly reports, not by the smell of fresh bread coming out of the oven or the sound of customers laughing over a slice of pie. Somewhere along the climb, he felt like he'd lost touch with what the restaurant meant to real people. Numbers didn't tell him how it felt to sit in one of the booths, or how the staff was being treated. One location in particular had caught his attention lately. This little diner on the edge of town. Reports showed it wasn't doing well. Customer feedback was inconsistent, staff turnover was high, and yet he'd heard nothing directly from the people working there. He decided he needed to see for himself. The bell over the door jingled as he stepped inside. The warmth from the heaters washed over him, carrying the scent of roasted meat and fresh herbs. A young waitress, probably no older than 20, greeted him with a tired but polite smile. "Table for one?" she asked. "Yes," he replied softly, and followed her to a booth near the back. The diner had that comforting glow he remembered from his childhood. The kind of place where families came after a long day, where friends caught up over coffee. A family of 4 in the corner laughed over milkshakes, a group of construction workers chatted near the window, and an elderly couple sat side by side, their hands intertwined, saying nothing but radiating the kind of love built over decades. Daniel glanced at the waitress. Her smile was genuine, but her movements carried a heaviness, like she'd been on her feet for far too many hours. He ordered the house special roasted chicken with garlic mashed potatoes, and nursed his coffee while watching the room. Everything seemed fine, almost comforting, until he heard something faint under the clinking of cutlery and soft hum of conversation. It was subtle at first, almost easy to dismiss, but then it grew clearer. Crying. It was coming from the kitchen. Daniel's eyes shifted to the counter. No one else seemed to notice. The waitress was busy taking another table's order, and the manager, a tall man with a stiff posture and a clipboard, was pacing near the register, glancing toward the kitchen now and then but doing nothing. The crying wasn't a single sob. It was the kind that came in waves like a dam breaking. Whoever it was, they weren't just upset, they were breaking. He stood up, pretending to stretch, and slowly made his way toward the counter. Through the small rectangular window in the swinging kitchen door, he saw her, a young woman, maybe in her early 20s, wearing a stained apron, standing by the sink. Her shoulders shook uncontrollably. She kept wiping her face with the back of her hand, trying to pull herself together, but the tears kept coming. No one was beside her. No one asked if she was okay. She looked painfully alone in that crowded kitchen. Daniel slipped through the door, making his way to her side quietly. "Hey," he said softly. She jumped slightly and turned around, quickly trying to hide her face. "I'm sorry," she stammered, her voice shaking. I'll get back to work." "You don't have to explain if you don't want to," Daniel said, keeping his tone calm. "I just wanted to check if you're okay." She bit her lip, hesitating. Then, almost like the words had been waiting too long, they spilled out. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered. "I've been working double shifts for weeks. My mom's in the hospital. My little brother needs someone to pick him up from school every day. And the manager told me if I take another day off, I'll be fired." Her voice cracked on the last word, and she pressed her hands to her face. Daniel felt a surge of anger toward the manager, but he kept his voice steady. "He said that to you?" She nodded. "I don't have anyone else to help. I need this job to pay the bills, but I'm so tired I can barely stand some days." I don't know what to do. He looked at her more closely now. Dark circles under her eyes, a tired slump in her shoulders, hands rough from work. How long have you been here? He asked quietly. 3 years, she said, her voice small. Since I was 17. I started part-time in high school. I never thought I'd still be here, but life. It just kind of happened. Daniel wanted to tell her everything right there. That he was the CEO, that he had the power to change this, but he knew timing mattered. He also knew that the only way to truly fix this was to address the root, not just comfort her. Listen, he said. You matter more than you realize. Don't forget that. I'll be right back. He stepped out of the kitchen and walked straight to the manager. Hey, Daniel said evenly. Can we talk for a second? The manager looked up, sizing him up like he was just another customer. Sure. What's the issue? Daniel didn't waste time. The issue is you have an employee in your kitchen right now crying her eyes out because she's overworked, exhausted, and afraid she'll lose her job if she takes care of her sick mother. The manager shrugged. She's good at what she does, but this is a business. We have shifts to fill. If she can't handle the hours, maybe she shouldn't be here. Daniel's jaw clenched. His voice stayed calm, but there was steel in it now. Maybe you shouldn't be here. The manager's smirk faltered. Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out his corporate ID. I'm Daniel Carter. I run this company. And I just watched how you treat your people. The man's face went pale. Wait, you're... Yes, Daniel cut in. And what I saw is unacceptable. You're done here. Effective immediately, you're relieved of your duties. You can pick up your final paycheck from HR. The diner had gone quiet. The waitress at the counter was frozen in place, her mouth slightly open. The manager stammered something about misunderstanding, but Daniel had already turned away. He went back into the kitchen, where the young woman was still standing near the sink, looking lost. Hey, he said gently. I just had a talk with your manager. He's not going to be here anymore. Her eyes widened. What? But how? Daniel smiled faintly. Let's just say I have a little influence. From now on you'll get the schedule you need, paid time off to take care of your mom, and a raise for the work you've been doing. She shook her head, tears welling up again. I don't know what to say. Say you'll take care of yourself, Daniel replied. This company was built on kindness. My father started it with the idea that we're not just feeding people, we're building a place where people feel cared for. Somewhere along the way we lost a piece of that. But I'm going to make sure we get it back. Over the next week, Daniel implemented a new policy across all locations. No employee could be penalized for taking time off for a family emergency. He also set up an anonymous hotline for staff to share struggles without fear of losing their jobs. It wasn't just about fixing one diner, it was about fixing the culture from the inside out. As for the young woman, she took the time she needed to be with her mother, who eventually recovered. Her little brother started doing better in school with her around more. She kept her job, but now her smile was real, and her steps were lighter. She even went back to college part-time, something she'd thought was impossible before. Daniel went back to his corporate life, but something in him had shifted too. The numbers still mattered, but they no longer overshadowed the people behind them. Every time he walked into one of his diners now, he remembered that night, the quiet sound of someone crying, and how stopping to listen had changed everything. Sometimes the most important things aren't the loud ones. They're the moments you could easily walk past but choose not to. Daniel had walked in for a simple meal that night. He walked out with a renewed purpose, and a reminder that leadership isn't about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. And in the end, maybe that's what makes a business truly successful. So the next time you hear someone quietly struggling, stop. Listen. You might just be the person who makes them feel seen when they need it most. And that could be the moment that changes everything for them and for you. If you like this story and believe the world needs more compassion, give this video a thumbs up, share it, and subscribe to Everyday Grace Stories, where every story reminds us that grace can be found in the moments we choose to care.